You don't know what death is.
Back everyone to Master of the Universe Horror Podcast. Joey Cage here with CJ motherfucker to the max, aight? And
that sounds like a Carlito's Way line.
It is for sure, dude. Carlito's Way. What's his name? Not Benny.
Benny Blanco.
Benny. It is Benny Blanco. So yeah, Benny Blanco from the Bronx. Hey, motherfucker to the max. Me and Chris today are going to be talking about Halloween 2. And released in 1981. This is directed by Rick Rosenthal. He actually also did Halloween Resurrection, which I'm not going to comment on it now because I don't want to be shitting on Chris's brain. So I want him to watch it, getting it all brand new, whatever he thinks, however he feels. But that movie sucks. No, I'm just kidding. So you went ahead and you told me you were watching part 1 again, dude. How long had it been since? I mean, I guess when did we do that? Like a year and a half ago, probably 2 years.
Yeah, literally 18 months ago. It was like middle to end of March of 2019, and we did that podcast. And I watched that movie twice because you know me, I like to watch things twice if I can, just to really get a feel for it and catch things I might not have caught the first time. And I did a refresher last night just to remember events, and I gotta say, I like that this movie picks up exactly where the first one left off.
Yeah, that was a good ass idea because, like, when you think about it, right? You're like, okay, we just like if you're John Carpenter, who also wrote this film, right? He wrote the first one, him and Debra Hill, and then they wrote this one. John Carpenter, director from the original one. They do this one, and you say to yourself, well, how do you continue this story, right? I mean, Michael Myers got shot off the thing, and like most sequels, like they come up with some gimmick and they do whatever, like just like the new ones, which I like the newest one, like it starts off like whatever 50 years later. So I mean, you could always do stuff like that. But this one has the balls to say, you know what, let's keep going that night, dude. That night ain't over. Let's open up another couple of Steve Weisers, dude. And we also have Jamie Lee Curtis back and Donald Loomis, dude. I mean, I love the fact, even though I don't like this movie that much, I love the fact that the continuity, the same characters, the same actors, I mean, that's something I do like.
That sounds something you would like, something I would like. But the thing is, like, you got to do that when this is a new franchise. Even second episode, it's a new franchise. You have it 100%. People are over, but it's not over enough that you can just start with something brand new just because 2 years have elapsed since the first one. No. 2 years have elapsed since the first one, and they still have, like you said, the balls to keep going and pick right up from there. A lot of movies, a lot of series, shows, whatever, will say, you know what, gosh darn, it's been 2 years since we last filmed, and maybe people look different or whatever, maybe people have forgotten, let's just start with something different. No, they picked up right where they left off, so there's storyline continuity.
Yeah, exactly. John Carpenter talked about how it was very difficult to come up with an idea. Because you had Wes Craven like talk about how he intended for his film, Nightmare on Elm Street in '84, just to be a one film thing and not have any sequels. I love the first film, but I think that character of Freddy and the stories Freddy got to tell or were told definitely made an improvement to Freddy. Even the ones that I think are ridiculous and dumb or whatever, like there's still something there. Of course, you're going to go through the films for the first time because I don't think you've seen like 4 or 5, etc. And if you have, it's probably like, just in passing by and not really watching it. But with Michael Myers, when John Carpenter says, or Halloween, that it was supposed to be just one film and one film only, I definitely agree with him, just because the aura that the first film could never be replicated. Any additional info, like Laurie Strode as Michael Myers' sister, it made the first film so magical to not really know anything about this person. Is just a psychopath. And I was gonna say his name's Chris. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, like, when you see the first film, like, don't you agree? Like, all you know is that this kid kills his sister. He escapes from a mental institution. He starts stalking this girl for no apparent reason, but he just starts, following her around town during the fucking daytime. Hiding behind bushes in the daytime, standing outside her house, behind the fucking sheets or whatever. And it's like, wow, dude, that's some shit. And then you have this film jumping around a little bit. You have him, like, just like it's in like Terminator mode almost. I guess it's a lot like Terminator 2. He's in, like, not a mental hospital, but he's in a hospital nonetheless, and he's kind of like just walking around and killing everyone, trying to get to, Sarah Connor, but to Laurie Strode, dude. I mean, how do you feel comparing, part one and part two as far as how Michael's presented? We did talk about how his eyes and stuff like that, how his mask are and shit.
Well, first of all, I'll say to just address that and get that elephant out of the room and go on to other things. They fucked up with the mask, like we've talked about privately before. The mask, like, you can see the lower eyelids, you can see the lighter colored hair. It gives away too much of him, and the mystique is gone, and it doesn't have the same frightening feel as the first one. And I mean, it's just, and then the first one too. The first one, if we're going to summarize it, it's like an episode of 90210 or maybe even Saved by the Bell, where it's a lot of the drama of seniors in high school, let's call them, and they're babysitters, and they're the hot guys in the class or whatever, and they're all banging with each other, and they're trading babysitting favors or whatever, and then Michael Myers comes, finds them, and fucking slits their fucking throats or hangs them on a wall with one butcher knife or whatever the fuck. But here, it kind of sort of starts with that element and picks right up where they left off on October 31st late at night, but then it just confines itself to this hospital environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess that's what it is, because I guess you just hit it on the head for me, because I like the beginning of this film, the first 20-30 minutes where, we can all, jumble it around however you want. It starts off right at the beginning. We hear Donald Loomis, Dr. Loomis say, like, I shot him 6 times. Everyone that'll hear him. He rides around in his car. They hit, Ben Tramer, and he's like a connection from the first film too, wearing the fucking Michael Myers outfit, and then the sheriff's like, is it him? Is it him? All that. It's kind of pretty quick, fast-paced introduction, and they're like still not too sure if Michael's. Well, obviously Michael got up after he fell off the fucking roof, and you said it left an indentation on the fucking ground.
That you didn't even see in the first one. What the fuck?
That's how, like, stupid and ridiculous. This film isn't stupid. Like I said, it's just like, come on now. Like, it's like little minor mistakes that you're gonna see in 80s horror movies, or slashers. And I thought it was funny. I was like, oh my god, this shit's actually going on, right?
And we didn't care back then, and I'll say this. I was only, oldest I ever was in the 80s was 7, and that was in 89. But and even if you get to the early 90s, like when I was like maybe 9, 10. But the thing is, like, we didn't care back then. We didn't give a fuck back then because, something though, there wasn't all this freely available cynical commentary and criticism of movies and TV shows, whatever the fuck, that we just can so easily go on YouTube or whatever and hear it and laugh at things. But like back then, a movie was put out and you saw it and that's it. And
exactly like you said. Yep. It's not like now where you can, oh shit, go ahead and read, like, even 10 years from there, it was like people were barely getting VHSs to watch that shit and laugh at it, rewind it. So, just really one time view. I don't think too many people really laugh at that in a cynical way, seeing the indentation. But all that shit happens, like I said, I was mentioning earlier, like I like the first 20 minutes a lot, and then we go to the fucking hospital, and like the tone completely changes because they're taking Laurie Strode out, Jamie Lee Curtis with the wig, and they're injecting her. They said she's fractured her leg or whatever, and it just seems like you had such a fun care, and you had talked about it how like the first one you have all these teenagers just doing, or high school kids doing high school kid shit. To it's just Laurie Strode. She's in the hospital. We're seeing Loomis, but he's not as intriguing, at least to me, in this one as he was in the first one, with a different sheriff, because he gets up because him and Brackett have a kind of like they have a little argument because Brackett's daughter, I forgot the daughter's name in part one, but he finds out she died, because of Myers, and so they kind of break up, and he starts hanging out with the other cop, Gary something, and so we're kind of like going between Michael Myers killing people, Laurie being in her coma. We're also seeing like a bunch of nurses or whatever the fuck they are, guy nurses and everything else. So we're like jumping around quite a bit, and we're not really, at least me, I'm not invested in Laurie Strode's character right now because she's like not even the same person. She's like, by 20 minutes in, she's all fucked up, dude. She's had too many gins and Sprites, dude.
Yeah, and not only that, I forgot about the cop's daughter being killed by Michael Myers. I had forgotten about that. And you got these two EMTs, by the way, who the whole thing is interesting to me when they get to Laurie Strode's or the house that she had, that this crime scene, or we want to call it a crime investigation rather, because he didn't give him the crime, it was self-defense. Where Michael Myers gets shot 6 times. They go to that house and find Laurie Strode and carry her out on a stretcher, take her to the ambulance, and she's all, "Oh, please don't put me to sleep." And then she gets to the hospital. "Please don't put me to sleep." Now, here's the thing: if you're going to be critical about it, and I don't mean to obsess about this, but if you're going to be critical about it, how did they know in that house to find Laurie Strode there? I mean, did she just fucking nothing medically was wrong with her? I mean, did she just fucking faint from the trauma of seeing Sam Loomis shoot Michael Myers 6 times, or what the fuck?
How did they find her? Well, I don't know how fast it was, but I know. Like we had talked about Donald Pleasant's character, Loomis, like said, "Call the cops, whatever," and that's when they show up like way after the fact. But I think Loomis like just leaves her there and he starts doing his own little thing.
He did. He gets with that one cop and tells him, "I shot him 6 times and he ran off." But yeah. the thing is, like, why do you carry Laurie Strode off? And I don't mean to be like overly critical, but it's just a thought that came to mind when I was watching this. Like, why do you carry her off in a stretcher if, other than a little cut on her shoulder, nothing severely is wrong with her?
I was going to say the same thing, but then they say, "Oh, you fractured your foot or her leg," but I don't remember her being that severely injured unless I forgot or skipped something in the first film. I didn't rewatch it just because I've seen it so many times, but I don't remember her, like you said, getting a scratch or two. I think she may have fallen down. I guess that's where they're going. I'm sure they were like, well, she has to like be in the hospital. We want to put her in the hospital, so Michael's killing people in the hospital with the hospital or clinic, whatever, right? That there's hardly anybody there but like staff. So it does though have a very foreboding look and feeling when you see like hospital corridors and stuff. So I do like the hospital thing. It's just it was a way too fucking dark in that motherfucking hospital. Does he cut the lights in that? Because I know he cut the phone wires. I didn't catch that in like original viewings, but I know like I think there's a part where Laurie picks up the phone after they tell her like, "Oh, the phone lines have been cut." She's like, "What?" And then the nurse is like, "Oh, don't worry about it." Like the dominoes. "Oh, don't worry about it."
Okay, see, I didn't even I like the dominoes. See, I didn't even fucking catch the phone lines being cut in the hospital. I caught that in the first one because I mean, like every fucking horror movie, the villain cuts off the phone line so they can't call the cops.
Yeah. So that's what Michael was doing. I mean, I guess Michael's smart. He's not a dumbass. So he. Oh, and then I love too that like when he's at the hospital and one of the nurses tries to leave again, jumping around. He like she looks at her car and all the tires in the fucking parking lot. All the cars in the parking lot have flat tires, and I was all like, "Oh man, that's awesome." But I mean, still, I would just run out the fucking parking lot screaming, "Help!" That old J routine. Jeremy found me and shit. Yeah, and then we talked about the mask a little bit, how you can see his eyes a lot, his hair is real lighter, that because Debra Hill had the mask underneath her fucking pillow, and she was a smoker, and it made that much tar like cause that kind of discoloration, and because I was like, wow, I'm glad I don't smoke anymore, dude, because it's like 2 years or so of that like of just smoking and smoking the air caused that mask to turn into the shape it fucking did, dude.
Well, fucking cigarette smoke, it gets in everything. It gets in your furniture, it gets in your walls, it gets in the air. I mean, it's hard to get that shit out. It sticks to what it sticks to. I mean, that's the fucking thing. Gosh, I sound like an idiot now. It sticks to what it sticks to, but I mean, it's just the thing too. Like, I don't care what the excuse was or what the cause it was or whatever. It's like, this is now, you've already had a very successful first movie. You're going to the second one. You've got a budget, and you have to have, remember, everything with human beings in life is visual. It doesn't matter how hard you work in the back of the background, back scenes, whatever, that's not, on the front lines. Everything is visual and then secondarily auditory. So visual is primary. So if people are seeing, if your audience is seeing that there's this mask, it reveals more of the facial than the previous movie. And then if they're seeing that this guy has lighter hair than on the first movie, well, fuck, then you say, stop, halt, we're going to have some mask maker create a new mask that's more like the first one, and we're going to have this actor, whoever, I forgot the name, but whoever the fuck it is plays Michael Myers in this one.
Dick
we're going to have him put
Warlock. Thinking the exact same thing. I'm like, does anyone on set like not notice that this fucking thing looks completely different than something that's supposed to be happened the same night? Who the fuck's running things?
Is she? Yeah, who is running things? Is she that fucking like intimidating to everybody? Is she fucking the Vince McMahon of that fucking place where everyone's scared to criticize? What the fuck? And then if he's got lighter hair,
can you imagine she shows up on set with that mask? I'd be like, what the fuck happened to it?
No, exactly what the fuck. And I mean, just and the thing is, okay, so if it's not fitting this guy the same way, then you have a mask maker modify another mask. I don't care if it costs another $10,000. I don't give a fuck, because we're gonna make it all back when the movie is fucking good. And the second thing is, if this guy's got lighter hair than the first one, then you get fucking Clairol hair coloring and you put it in his fucking hair.
You probably could have done something like that. It would have made, because like his hair is brown in the first one. Here it's like blonde, right? Oh, just about. It looks like it just look like it stands out way too much for me. His fucking face is too goddamn wide for that mask. I would have been like all these things. Like, okay, you can't play Michael Myers because your fucking head's too goddamn big. Let's get another. And it's not that it's just. I mean, look at your face in the mask. Like, I know. I'm like, the face looks fucking weird. And then they end up cutting the eye holes. I'm assuming, that the fucking the same reason his head was too wide. They had to cut the eyes hole because it probably was, not fitting where his eyes were at because it was stretched out differently and shit like that. So it caused a lot of problems. I would have been like, first of all, we gotta get a new mask or a new actor, and we'll do mask for sure and a new actor because this shit ain't working. Like it to me, it's so ridiculous that they fucking use that mask, dude. You know what I mean? Like, to me, it's like it just looks fucking. The only cool look in this whole film was when they shoot out his eyes and blood comes out of him at the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'll give you an example here. From something that went on approximately 10 years prior to this movie. So when was the first season of the Brady Bunch? Like 1971? Okay. So you know what they did with Bobby Brady, the youngest brother? Mm-hmm. His hair is naturally like a reddish brown, like my nephew Charlie. Mm-hmm. So they didn't want that character to have that hair color because it didn't fit with Peter and Greg, who had a darker hair color. So what did they do? They had the girls, Marcia and Jan, put fucking Clairol jet black in his hair until it got darker. And he had to be like that for 2 fucking seasons. And you're telling me you can't get this fucking guy to do that for 1 fucking movie?
Yeah, that whole mask and Michael Myers situation, it's, I mean, there was some cool parts. I mean, like, I liked, well, again, fast forwarding, jumping around, because there's not too much with this film to where we'll talk about the kills, but I liked when it's when they let Laurie in. That's way at the end. It's like the last 10 minutes or so, 15 minutes, when like Laurie manages to escape from Michael Myers, and she's outside and she's like, hey, and like that shit like annoys me. Like she seems so like helpless. You know what I mean? Like after being like this pretty badass character. I mean, she's no Ripley from Aliens, but she's pretty badass. To being like this person that's just drugged up and hurt and yelling, but she's yelling too late. Dr. Loomis and everyone else is back inside and shit. And but anyway, they let her back in the thing, and then fucking Michael's like walking through the door, and he just like walks through the glass door. Fucking funny.
Okay. Let me ask you a quick question here for our kayfabe listeners here. Are we calling it in the ring, or are we going scene by scene?
We're calling it in the ring, Daddy.
Okay, so if we're calling it in the ring, I'm glad you said that, because here's the thing. Number one, in the hospital bed, she's like out, and they put the fucking lights to her eye and shit like that, and she can't even wake up or anything. She's fucking out like a light.
Yeah,
now,
like a coma and shit.
Yeah, but then at a later time, somehow for some reason she wakes up and starts trying to get outside the hospital. Okay, fine, but you didn't explain what the fuck woke her up.
I thought the same thing. Like I said, like I was like, I'm so glad you brought that up, dude. Like I was like, what the fuck? Why is she in a coma? Like, or it seemed like, cause that's like a coma state when they're like not responding to anything and shit, you know, like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, now she's awake, and like, what the fuck? Like you said, what woke her up? And I was really confused. The whole movie, like, you have to watch it and maybe to try to make connections. Like when you have to pay so fucking close attention to something that's not very interesting, it makes the movie kind of boring and kind of like not worth watching. You know what I mean? Like, let's say for like something like Total Recall, when you listen to like the little stuff that they say, you have to pay attention, but it's not going to be a detriment to the movie. It just makes the movie more interesting when you actually hear the connections of what they're talking about. You know what I mean? With this film, there's like no real payoff. It's like, okay, she's in a coma, and now she's not, okay, but she's still running around doing nothing.
That's how we're doing things now.
Exactly. I'm like, who cares? You know what I mean? Like, okay, she was like, I mean, of course I want her to live, but now the payoff is Laurie's, you know, in a hospital. She's limping. She's on drugs. Like, I understand it's for story-wise, but we shouldn't have this story if this is the outcome. You know what I mean? Like, you have a great character, and we're going to make them, you know, look like shit, basically, you know.
Yeah, it's a movie with two great characters. You got Michael Myers and Laurie Strode, and the way they're handled in this, and whoever the fuck the director is, because this is not on the guy who played Michael Myers. This is not on the guy. This is not on Jamie Lee Curtis for playing Laurie Strode. This is on the director. When you are the director, you're the one you're the final say on how the scenes play out and how they get acted and how things get said and how body language gets portrayed, etc., etc. So you need to be seeing all this from above. And if you're seeing fuck ups, you better call it and stop that shit. So that's the thing. Now, the other thing with Jamie Lee Curtis, Laurie Strode, is she gets outside. I mean, she had to fucking like bang on that and hope to God that the fucking elevator door opened in time to get away from Michael Myers.
Yeah.
She goes back out the other end. Now she gets into the hospital parking lot, and Michael Myers isn't within 10 yards of her. So she's got free roam to just keep walking and create safety, because that's the whole thing. When you're afraid of someone and you're trying to get away from them, the whole thing is creating distance. Now, her natural instinct, if this was real, I'm gonna do a Vince Russo bro. So, bro, if this was real, what would they be doing? Well, if it's real, what would you be doing? You would just keep walking off the fucking hospital parking lot and get to safety somewhere. If it's a stranger's house or a business that's over, whatever the fuck, and you get out. But she decides, for whatever reason, that it's safer to hide in some like 1960s car.
Yeah. I was thinking, like, we had talked, I was like, why don't you just run out the fucking parking lot? Like, why go back? And then it was funny, like, she goes back, like, why? Your whole thing was to get out of the hospital, right? But now you see was Dr. Loomis' dick 10 feet long? Or, I mean, why are you going back into the hospital? Like, me, I would have just been like, fuck it, dude. I've got way better chances. I'd have better chances, like, okay, there's a killer in my house, just walking out the fuck outside. I don't care if, you know, my dad or somebody that is in the house now that's going to protect me. Of course I want to save them, but as far as I can't protect myself, I'm all drugged up, I got a broken leg, and, you know, my dad's going in there with 2 other people, I'm gonna be like, hey, you know, I'm gonna get the neighbor. Hey, you know, you got a gun or something, dude? You know, you got a baseball bat and a putter? I mean, what do we got going on over here? But yeah, it was kind of annoying. Like, it just kind of like dumb decisions. I mean, I don't think the movie's bad. It just kind of you know, that our job is to talk about the movie and the stuff that we see. I still enjoyed it. It's not a film I'm gonna be like, oh, let's watch all the time. But yeah, it's okay. But let's talk about the kills after the first chick just gets that the jump scare kill. You know, she's looking out the window in the way beginning. And like Michael, I just knew when Michael jumped from out of frame to stab her, and you could see his eyes. I'm like, oh man, this is like a completely different, you know, movie, a completely different Michael. But the first one, it reminded me of the or the second kill, I should say. The security officer that gives that nurse like the walkie-talkie. He's all like, you know, he's like looking for shit, and like he opens up a door and a bunch of shit falls out.
Mr.
And like
Garrett, the security guard.
Yeah, I'm like, well, there goes some more jump scares, you know. And then he gets hit in the back of the head with the hammer, just like the sheriff or whatever the fuck he is, and Friday 2 when he goes into Jason's shack. You know what I'm
talking? You read my mind, or you read my notes, I should say.
Yeah, dude. He does the reverse hammer hit and everything. And they came out the same year, didn't they? They both came out in 81?
They both came out in 1981, that's right.
Yeah, I was like, did they rip off Friday? And I was all like, well, no, I think they both came out in 81. And I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm damn sure. I mean, Halloween came out in 79 or 78. But
78.
Yeah, and then 70, and then these two, they both part 2s came out in 81. And I was like, well, that's awesome. You know, I was laughing about it. And I thought that was like, oh, I was like, ouch, you know, when you used to hit the crocodiles at the Pizza Hut places or whatever, they had the games, and you would hit the crocodile.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It was like, ouch. And so I was like, fuck, dude, that shit looks like it fucking hurt, dude.
But then with that, the thing is, he then decides, okay, I've already killed him by hitting him in the head with the back end, nail removing end of the hammer.
Mm-hmm.
I've already done that. I could just leave him laying here for dead. It wouldn't mean fuck. But I now...
I know what you're talking. Go ahead, dude.
Yeah, you know where I'm going with this. So I now have decided that I'm gonna, just for the fuck of it, I'm gonna lynch him.
Yeah, I was like, because we see him again, like when Laurie's making her great escape, and she like comes out of an air duct, right, or some bullshit or whatever the fuck she's going through, and then yeah, we see him hanging, and I thought that was kind of scary and fucked up, but it's like, again, like, yeah, why is Michael putting up, you know, decorations at a fucking hospital, like he knew, like, you know, someone was gonna come out there and you know, find him there and shit or whatever, but I thought that was pretty cute. And another thing I don't like about this film is that we spend a lot of time with these like nurses and like characters, but not a lot of time, but just enough time to annoy you and not to care about them, I guess, because they want us to enjoy them dying. Like that one kind of scumbag when that one nurse comes in and they're kind of like just smirking at each other, like they have like their whole system down where they're going to go meet up in the hot tub in the back or whatever. How many? I mean, I'm sure it's not out of this world, like, but why would a hospital have a hot tub gimmick?
Those kind of hot tubs, I have seen those in hospitals before. Like, I remember when my grandfather was in the hospital a lot during the mid-'90s, and you'd go the various different hospitals he'd be transported to and from, and you'd go to different ones and you'd see different shit. And I did see things like that. Now, why they have those, I don't fucking know. Yeah,
I'm like, I've never, well, I mean, of course, like you said, like, it's not out of this world that they would. It just, I've never seen one, so I'm like, I'm so glad you said that. But yeah, I was like, when I remember seeing that scene as a kid, because I had seen the movie before. It's a lot of scenes, and I remember just being like, I liked horror movies, but seeing the death of that chick in this part kind of like freaked me out as a kid, because I guess it was like a gruesome way for my little brain to process, where, like, you know, he chokes out that one dude when he goes to check on the temperature or whatever, but then that he turns up the heat, and then he starts dumping that chick's face in there, because I guess, like, you know, no one wants to drown, but then, like, you're drowning, you're being, like, killed, and you're in, like, boiling hot water, and Michael's hand is fine, by the way.
And I gotta say, I didn't, you know, you thought there's something I even missed right there, is Michael's hand is fine, but I actually, you know, that was one of the things I liked was, using drowning, because that's just a fucking shit heel asshole thing to do, is drown somebody. And then you're drowning somebody in boiling hot water. Fucking A, you're really an asshole.
Yeah, yeah. Keep going, man.
I liked it. I actually liked that scene, and I liked it when like they're both in the hot tub, just kind of chilling, doing their romance thing, and then you see him turn up the heat, and he didn't go all the way, but I thought he was going to. I thought he was gonna damn near boil them alive in that shit.
Yeah, it's that chick's fine as fuck though. She's fine as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's funny as growing up, and I've seen it before. Like you don't like at least me, I didn't pay attention to these women. But I guess as a man now, Daddy, I see these chicks. I'm like, man, that chick's fun. I'd go risk losing my job and be in a hot tub with a bitch like that, kid.
How about that blonde nurse?
Oh yeah, she's fucking fire. Yeah, there. Like I said, like as a kid, I didn't really like, cause like if you look at a lot of these horror films, you're gonna see chicks, and I guess when you're a kid, of course, or even a teenager, you kind of like don't like or whatever. But when you're an adult, in your 30s and shit, you're like, oh man, that chick's pretty fine. Yeah. And yeah, so I thought it was fucked up. I did enjoy the like now. I mean, as an adult too, I was like, I enjoyed the kill because I was like, damn, that was like that's when it was getting like, okay, that's something I did like. And like Laurie starts having her problems. We had talked about it, going into their coma, and one of the nurses goes and looks for a doctor. I don't know his name, but he's got like a needle through his eye. And then that nurse, I think her name's Janet. I think the one you're talking about. She gets.
It was like Mexer or some Dr. Mexer.
Some bullshit, and she's going to go look for him, and she's like, Dr. Mexter, whatever the fuck. She goes in there, and he's got, like, the needle through the eye, and I'm like, fuck, I don't know if that'd kill you, but, I mean, I'd like to die anyway, And after that shit, and then she gets, like, he doesn't have anything. I thought, I was like, oh, when I first saw it, I was like, oh, I even wrote in my notes, like, he injected her with something. And then I saw it again, I'm like, he doesn't have anything in the needle, like, he's forcing, like, something, I guess, and I looked it up, and it says he killed her with, like, an air bubble to the brain. I was like, oh, it's probably even worse, dude, And
yeah, and it's just that's fucked up. And I mean, you see the doctor and the fucking nurse are both injected near the eyes, and now, like one of them, it looked like it was right in his eye, the doctor, and then the nurse, it's like in kind of that eye wall area. But yeah, like you said, that would be an oxygen bubble to the eye. If it's excess, artificially placed oxygen in the brain, that would fuck shit up.
Yeah, and then we had Jimmy, you had mentioned him, the ambulance driver, like, he's there looking around, I forget where he comes into play, but then he stumbles upon the black nurse, the one that tells Laurie about the phones, and she's got, like, or not Jill, her name's Miss Virginia Alves, and she's, like, getting, like, her blood drain, like, through an IV or some shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck? I thought that was, again, like, that's cool. Like, that's cool. Like, but it's showing, like, to me, these are, like, the Jason type kills. You know what I mean? Like, and I like it, though. It's like, well, Michael's stepping his game up. He's not just, stabbing you or whatever. Like, and I think John Carpenter even said, because when he was writing this shit, he was saying it was real difficult for him to come up with what to do because, like, writing stories, or the movie came out in 78, so he must have had ideas in 77. There was not that many, that much competition out there, that many movies out there. And then now you have Friday the 13th coming out there with, not even Jason, but, Pamela Voorhees at the time and other shit, like, coming up with some good-ass fucking, deaths and ways to kill people. So he was like, well, this film needs to, have, it needs. I know they were going back and forth. Rick Rosenthal, the director, and John Carpenter and Mustafa Akkad or whatever his name is, the guy that produces these films.
Yeah.
That they wanted to keep the tone for the first one, but John Carpenter didn't want to because it's a different playing field now, and the guy, I know Carpenter was saying, like, the way the film was originally edited was very unscary, so John Carpenter decided to add shit. I think he added new scenes, a bunch of weird shit. So like no one really had the same vision, I guess, and like it kind of shows that it's kind of like all over the place. Because I said, well, the beginning's real good and it's kind of fast paced, and all of a sudden you get bored with it, and then all of a sudden everyone's dying again, and you really don't have one character that you're really invested in because Laurie's not much. Dr. Loomis, his character's a little bit different. But anyway, when Jimmy sees that nurse get her blood drained, he ends up slipping, dude. And like, it doesn't say if he dies or not, but I took it as that motherfucker like cracked his head and died, dude.
No, yeah, I didn't. I initially suspected that might be the case, but I wasn't sure. But yeah, that type of shit, like you were saying earlier just now, that those kind of kills like that would have been the kind of thing that would have like traumatically, emotionally disturbed me. Like if I had seen this in fucking 5th grade or some shit, like to see someone get an IV put in them and just drain the blood, and not to do like a transfusion or ozonate their blood or anything like that, but just to drain blood out and just to kill them. Like in 5th grade, like I would have been like pale and like completely silent for 2 days.
I like how you oversell it. Fucking pale and completely silent for 2 days.
I would have. It would have fucked me up, dude. In 4th grade, I couldn't even take Van Damme being crucified in Cyborg.
Oh my God, how times have changed, huh? The old J man. Your nurse, her name's Jill, dude. Jill Franco. Yeah, she runs into Laurie because Laurie's like running around, like, oh, that's when Michael stumbles upon her, like her room, of course, and he starts stabbing the pillows with the scalpel, I think, but she's already booked it. And then Jill runs into Laurie, and of course, perfect timing, Michael, like again, it reminds me so much of Terminator 2, like they run into each other, Jill and Laurie. And then fucking Michael, turns the corner and it just stabs her from behind and like lifts her up. And I was like, son of a bitch.
Terminator 2, there's the unwilling female patient, stuck in an institution of some sort. And got some fucking villain and no one believes her, but she's got this fucking T-1000 villain fuck, coming at her and her family and all this shit. Yeah, it's very much like Terminator 2.
Yeah, when I was watching it last night, I just thought like that's what it reminded me of. I started laughing. I'm like, this is like Terminator 2, dude. You know what I mean? Like, is this where what's his name? James Cameron got kind of his idea, because it's just you start seeing like patterns in films, and you start seeing like where people may have or may not have gotten inspiration, whether subconsciously they know or not, right? Whatever. But I thought that a lot during this film. But yeah, she escapes. Loomis and the gang come back, and that's when he goes to the window we talked about earlier. He ends up shooting Myers again, dude. Like everyone saw the like with the sheriff or marshal that's with him. Like Michael's on the floor and he's like, "Get away from him, you fool!" or whatever. And then Michael kills the sheriff or slits him his throat, like all slow and shit. But I'm like,
why would you go check his pulse? Like, this guy's got a fucked up reputation.
He's like, he's not breathing. Like they even have the little fucking music. But yeah, I'm like, that's like the last thing I would do is go like even cops. Like now you see them when they shoot somebody, like they kick the gun away and shit. You know what I mean? Like if they're gonna go up to him or whatever, it's like, yeah, oh, okay, let me go ahead and be a dumbass and go ahead and whatever. But I guess that's how those movies get over.
Fuck, we got a society of cops where a 30-year-old girl gets shot 6 times and the cops don't call the ambulance. I mean, fuck, you're gonna go walk up to this fucking guy and check his pulse? What the fuck?
Exactly. Go check his pulse. Oh my God, exactly. I was like, what the fuck? So like stuff like that, like it bothered me. I mean, it's not like, oh my God, I can't watch the movie because no, it's just like, okay, come on, dude, let's not do overly stupid shit like that. Like it's fine that people do dumb things, but I mean that was a bit much. But everyone starts fucking. They end up in this like Hellraiser 2 type looking room where Michael's there trying to stab Laurie and Loomis. And Loomis gets stabbed, right? And then Laurie ends up getting Loomis's gun and shoots Michael directly in the eye, or we're supposed to think directly in the eyes because he's fucking bleeding from them.
Yep.
and he's like stabbing just that air. He just starts swinging.
And Loomis is just backing up, and at the same time as they're doing that, they're
Oh
releasing
my
ether
God.
and oxygen.
Yes, but how funny was that Loomis bump when he gets stabbed and he like falls on that stretcher or whatever the fuck? He's like, I started laughing to rewind it. I was like, did he just fall like that? You know what I mean? Like he did that cell, so I thought that was like one of the best parts of the movies, the Loomis cell, and yeah, they start letting all that bullshit out, and Laurie's running, and Dr. Loomis lights up a cigar. No, he lights up his Zippo, whatever, and boom, and then just
it's time, Michael.
Yeah, exactly. Just when you thought it's over, Michael has the best burn suit on, dude, because he looks about 30 pounds heavier, with the outline, and he's on fire walking out. And I was like, I actually like that if it didn't look so shitty. But I was like, yeah, like even like after blowing up, like he's still walking away, like the Terminator too, when the fucking car blows up, when Arnold blows up the 18-wheeler on the highway or whatever, and he walks through the fire. So I thought that was another Terminator 2 reference, but
it's like you can really see if you watch this movie and the way the mask is designed with the hair surrounding it and the way he kind of like no-sells so much, it's like you really see this is where fucking Bruce Pritchard got the ideas for like 97, 98 Kane before they fucked him up.
Yeah, dude, exactly. I like that. But I mean, we talked about it a lot already about part 1 and part 2, so I guess there's not too much going over again about it. But I enjoyed this movie. I didn't think it was bad. I didn't think it was like, oh my god, it was great. It's right there in the middle for me, where I enjoyed it a little bit more than I would say. I guess I didn't like it. I hear a lot of people talk about this film like, oh, I actually know like a lot of people that I like their reviews and stuff like that, and they actually like this one better than part 1, and I just cannot see how or why. I mean, maybe, yeah, I just can't see how. I mean, there's nothing about this film other than, okay, some of the kills are better, but I mean, I'm not like, I don't go watch. I mean, never mind. I can't say I don't watch a Jason film just for the kills, because that's bullshit. But I do watch it for the kills. But Michael Myers is supposed to give me a good story. I think that's the best thing about this film, is that it's got pretty good kills, but nothing else really stands out for me. I thought it was boring once they got to the hospital. I love the beginning. I like when Michael starts killing people towards the last 20 minutes or so, and that's really it. And that middle section, I have a lot of problems with. Kind of bothers me. I'm gonna have to give it like a 6.5, 7 out of 10. Like, it's something like, hey, you know what? It's Halloween. Like, hey, it's right today for me and Chris. We're recording this October 1st. You know what? I enjoyed it. Am I gonna watch it again? No. Am I gonna watch it next year? Probably, because it's Halloween. But it's not, something I'm gonna jump on my seat with. Oh, let's watch Halloween 2. But it's pretty good. I mean, I think this film I think the best way to watch this film is if you're having the marathon. You're watching 1 and 2. And it does good because you're watching 1 and 2 because 1's there. But if you're just watching it on its own, you don't have to watch Rocky 1 to enjoy Rocky 2. And this film, I think you do need to watch Halloween 1 to enjoy Halloween 2. So that's my thoughts. CJ, what about you?
I agree. It's not a freestanding where like the Rocky trilogy or the Back to the Future trilogy or Karate Kid trilogy. Those are movies you can watch them standalone or in a marathon, and it works either way. This one, I don't think is much. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say I overall, on balance, enjoyed the film. Now, having said that, they opened up a couple boxes that they did not resolve. Like, they go to the classroom, Festival of Samhain. Okay, that's pretty cool. That's pretty intriguing. I looked it up. It's a Gaelic festival of crop harvesting season, and where they mark where it starts being darker for more of the day than lighter. I was okay. That's pretty neat. That's a lot like the Jewish festival of Tabernacles. Very cool. Now, also, when they get into, damn it, I wrote this down. What the fuck? When they mention Laurie, we find out toward the end that Laurie is actually Michael's younger sister. It's like, okay, that's a big piece of information that you just dropped on our lap here, and now,
yeah,
as a result of that, what? Nothing.
No, I'm glad you brought that up because I thought, I mean, did we mention it? But and we're given like subtle hints, like he broke into some. I looked like a school. Michael does, and he's got a knife on a drawing. I'm like, is that a school or some kind of records thing or what's the like? It just the film's a mess. But then yeah, like when he gets when Loomis gets picked up, the marshal and that one chick, and she tells him, "Oh, the governor wants you back," blah blah blah, and she's like, "Michael Myers is Laurie Strode's sister or whatever the fuck, or sister, Laurie Strode is Michael Myers' sister." Okay, now what? You know what I mean? Like kind of like Freddy's dead. Like, okay, that's your dad. All right. I mean, we don't care about this character, and we're not really impressed with you as a character. I mean, but that's what made again. That's what makes the first film so great to me is that we don't know why this motherfucker is like just infatuated with Laurie Strode, and it's good. It's good. Like now he's on this mission to kill her, but the mystery is so good from the first one. And then to me at least, what makes the first film so good is the ending. Because we had just watched Friday the 13th remake, and what happens? Jason jumps out of the thing. Well, what happens here? They shoot him and they go out to go see him, and he's not there. And that's how the film ends. This evil, the evil is gone from here, and that's it. You're like, what do you like? That's fucking scary because we just killed. We don't know what happened to him. Like that's the best part.
I know if you shot me 6 times and then I fell out a 2-story window, I'm not just gonna get up and walk away.
That's what makes it so good. And they end it like that. It's not like, oh, like we shot him, and then he gets up, and then like we see him get up, and then the movie ends. Because that kind of, it's like, okay, so he never dies, but here it's like we don't know what the fuck he did. That's what makes it good. That mystery. Michael Myers in the first film is a complete mystery. We found it in part 2. He's got a sister. Great, good for you. He's killed his sister on the first one. Now his gimmick is just killing sisters. Anyway. I hope you guys fucking enjoyed Halloween 2. We're going to have a lot of Halloween to talk about. We'll probably reference this one and, probably not part 3 because Michael doesn't show up on that one. Spoiler alert. But hope you guys are enjoying these Halloween videos. Like I said, we're going to try and post about 2 a week. And I don't know if we're going to make the deadline to try and get them all done by the 31st. But we're sure as hell going to try, baby. So, again, hope you guys enjoyed it. And we'll see you on the next one.
Peace.